Okay, we are going to be going over drama vocabulary. The first word is drama, which can be a play or a story performed by actors on stage. A comedy is typically a play with a happy ending. A tragedy is opposite of a comedy, and this is when important or serious events happen, and unfortunately, the main character usually dies. Comic relief, it's when a funny character, scene, or conversation happens, and it changes or lightens the mood. So, for example, when in Lion King, when Simba and Scar are fighting, Timon and Pumbaa decide to do some little song, act crazy just to lighten the mood. If you've ever seen, what's the movie, Frozen, and we got Olaf right here, whenever tensions are kind of high, he always says something funny to lighten the mood up a little bit. A really good example is of Shrek and Fiona. You know, if they're in an argument and you got Donkey, he's pretty crazy. Donkey is the example of the comic relief, which usually results in people being happier, changing their moods. Spelled a word. That R-H-Y-M-E. There we go. A couplet is a set of two lines that rhyme. A way that you can remember that is couplet sounds like couple, where you have a group of two things. So we can look here at the example of Dr. Seuss. So I will not eat them in a house. I will not eat them with a mouse. So there's our couplet, a set of two lines that rhyme. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. So there and anywhere being our couplet for rhyming. Meter. It's a pattern in which how you say certain words, and it ends up creating a rhythm. Okay, so meter is the rhyming pattern of a poem. The pattern serves two functions. It makes the poem more pleasurable and delightful, and the poem more meaningful becomes part of the total meaning. Let's see if this will work right here and watch this short little video. Can never trust technology here, but on your own time, take a look at this video, and it gives a great example of why meter is important. The next thing we have is Ionic Pentameter. So that's a line in poetry that follows a specific meter. So an example is it usually has 10 syllables per line, and it's a way of writing poetry. So here's an example of Ionic Pentameter. The which if you with patient ears attend. This is terrible, but you can hear it. The which if you with patient ears attend. So you can see that it is 10 syllables. Here's one from Romeo and Juliet. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks. They are the 10 syllables. Blank verse. Blank verse is just a verse that the person is writing. There is no rhythm to it. So right here we can see it is written in lines of Ionic Pentameter, but does not use any rhythm or rhyming. Rhythm. So that this is a pattern that you can hear when you're listening or reading. They have beats that stress certain words in the poem. So try beating out the rhythm with a finger as you read lines. I cut the lines out so you can't do that. Poets use patterns of stressed and unstressed syllables to create regular rhythm. So authors for rhythm, they can use repeated words, kind of like how we hear in rap, rhyming words like how we hear in rap, and alliteration to create rhythm. You can also use rhythm to make stories fun, and it makes it easier for beginning readers, so it helps us remember. Chorus can be an actor or actors who are the narrator, and they make comments about what is happening to the audience so they understand. Okay, so an example, in classical Greek drama, an example of chorus is a group of people or actors who describe and comment upon the main action of a play through either song, dance, or reciting. Prologue. You can generally find these at the very beginning of the book, and this is just an introduction that tells the setting, background information, and the theme. So if you read the prologue of a book, it kind of gives you an idea of what you're about to read about. One famous example of a prologue is through Star Wars. So at the beginning of the Star Wars movies, it shows you this right here to let you know what's happening. Romeo and Juliet has a prologue, so it kind of gives you an overview of the story. Aside. An aside is just a short line a character says that only the audience can hear. The other characters do not hear this aside. Okay? So aside are words spoken by an actor supposedly heard only by the audience. An example of this in Romeo and Juliet is when Juliet is talking to herself and Romeo goes, "She speaks." He's not talking to Juliet, the only other person on stage, but he's talking to the audience. Monologue, a long speech made by a character to the other character. Both of these characters are on stage. So the difference between aside and monologue, a character may also use a monologue to reveal what they are thinking. But while asides and soliloquies involve the character speaking to him or herself and the audience, monologues are typically directed to other characters. It may also be directed to the audience, but it's not a speech that a character is telling him or himself. Soliloquy. Soliloquy, there we go. Soliloquy is a long speech made by a character with no other characters on stage. So monologue is a character talking to another character on the stage. Soliloquy, they're all by themselves, and you can think of this. Did I spell this wrong? I did, but that's okay. There we go. Okay, so we can think of soliloquy like solo. You are by yourself. An example is when Romeo overhears Juliet talking to herself in her famous soliloquy. So the soliloquy is when she's having her speech by herself. So if we take a look down here, it says soliloquies are another literary technique that can expose a character's true intentions. Unlike an aside, which interrupts previous dialogue and is only 1 or 2 lines long. A soliloquy is a lengthy speech. They enable characters to ponder parts of the story and come up with the solutions without talking to other characters. So here's just a little more explanation about the differences between soliloquies, asides, and monologues. So soliloquies, remember, they are a lengthy speech in which a character, usually alone or solo on stage, expresses his or her true thoughts or feelings. Soliloquies are unheard by other characters. Aside is a brief remark by a character revealing his or her true thoughts or feelings, unheard by other characters. Monologue. It's a lengthy speech by one person, and unlike a soliloquy, a monologue is addressed to other characters. Foil. A foil character is a character that is completely opposite from another character. So one example we all know is SpongeBob and Squidward. SpongeBob's this crazy, energetic, happy person. Squidward, completely opposite. In Romeo and Juliet, you guys will learn who Benvolio and Tybalt are, but we can see the contrasting characteristics. So Benvolio is very, very passive. Tybalt likes to fight. Benvolio is even-keeled. He is calm, cool, and collective, whereas Tybalt has a quick temper. Benvolio talks about friends, and Tybalt, family. I'm not too sure what that one is. We got to read the story to understand that a little bit more. Benvolio is a Montague, which is one of the families, and Tybalt is from the opposite family, the Capulets. Oh, that's because Benvolio was a friend and Tybalt's part of the family. Okay, there we go. All right, catharsis. It's a release of emotional tension at the end of the play. It is generally an effect of tragic drama. So some examples of catharsis is a man who killed someone in a drunk driving incident experiences catharsis by volunteering in a children's shelter. Or playing the piano in a catharsis for playing the piano is a catharsis for a tired, busy mother after a long day of work. You will see an example of catharsis in Romeo and Juliet, but if I explain it to you, I'll end up ruining the whole play for you. So there are your vocabulary words.